Hello and welcome. My name is Michael Bartlett, Master Metaphysical Astrologer, and I'm here to share with you my view on the January 2024 astrological forecast. Please note that dates and times are approximate. Please adjust for your time on Earth, and I'll be discussing these on a fourth harmonic forecast, which is meaning that the ways in which the planets are in a relationship with one another that creates challenges and difficulty. I want to thank, first of all, Christine Cianci, the amazing artist who hand oil painted all of our Astro Theater figures. You can visit her website at www.cccianciart.com. First of all, I want to thank everyone and wish you a most wonderful and happy new year. It's the first of the year, of course. It's the beginning of our new calendar year. And we start off with a Venus-Saturn square. Venus in the sign of Sagittarius, Saturn in the sign of Pisces. These are both mutable signs. So first of all, I want to ask, when these two were together back on the 23rd of March in 2022 in the sign of Aquarius, what was going on for you in your life? Whatever got presented around that time would be getting into a little bit more of a full development. The third quarter square, as you know, from having watched my previous shows, is considered the crisis in consciousness, which means that there is a way in which we learn something that we did not know before, right? The I didn't know that I didn't know sort of an aspect. In the sign of Sagittarius, Venus is seeking for the truth in relationship and finding out a little bit more, maybe having an adventure, maybe an affair happened or something, or maybe that's what's going on right now in the sense of when we think about our love interest when it comes to Venus. Venus is hanging out with her brothers, Mars and Mercury in the same sign. So there's quite a strong force of energy, of Sagittarian energy seeking forth to be expressed at this point. Saturn and Neptune, of course, have been hanging out in the sign of Pisces. Neptune has been there for quite some time at this point. Saturn is at the early degrees and it's creating this third quarter square and asking us what is our relationship to our values? How are we handling our boundaries in relationship? How are we dealing with finding out and dealing with the underlying issues that are lying in our life? Are we sitting there trying to bury our head in the sand and not pay attention to issues, or are we needing to find out what the truth is? What's really great with Sagittarius with those arrows, they send out all those arrows out there and find out where the truth, where it hits, where we find out what our deeper meanings are in life connected with Pisces. Now, on the 1st of January, I want to be joining Lindsay Turner, Sam Reynolds, and Jonah Emerson Bell. We did a talk on the forecast for 2024 in Santa Fe, and it was received with such excitement and appreciation that we've decided to make it into a live event and go into a wider audience and provide it for more people. So please feel free to visit badpastor.me and click on our store and purchase your ticket. If you're not able to join us on January 1st for the talk, please know that you will be receiving a copy of the recording. January 1st continues with a wonderful shift in the energy of Mercury, who will be going direct. We were fortunate to enjoy Mercury, Mars, and Venus in Sagittarius over the holidays, giving us a little bit more of a bubbly, great sense of timing and fun with one another. For many of us who were traveling during this time, some of us encountered lots of travel issues, right? Sagittarius is the sign for international travel and travel to finding out these larger perspectives in life. And so it's nice to get into this direct energy with Mercury. If you have worked on your resolution already, these are really great to just write it down and be able to make your intentions for the year at this point and be able to see how your life is going to unfold in the coming year. On the 4th of January, Mars is moving out of the sign of Sagittarius and into the sign of Capricorn, where he'll be joining the Sun and Pluto. This gets Mars out of a little bit more of its gregarious energy. It's not as happy in the sign of Sagittarius because again, it has a little bit of a harder time focusing on things. But once it moves into the Saturn-ruled sign of Capricorn, it has the opportunity to really put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. And so with Pluto there for the little while it's going to be there now, and the Sun there, this could really be a great time to set forth the intentions and get down to work. On the 6th of January, we are going to have a third quarter square between the Sun and Chiron. They originally were together on the 5th of April, 2023. So you might want to go back into your notebook or your journal and see what was going on around that time. Chiron has a very interesting sort of a characteristic in that in the traditional sense, we call him the wounded healer who heals, but he also becomes a teacher, educator, facilitator. And so it's this part in us that is informed through the exquisitely perfect challenges and painful experiences we had growing up. And with the Sun and Chiron in relationship to one another in this way, this can be a really great opportunity to really look at things, because many times when it comes to Chiron, what we don't realize when we're sitting in a place of pain or when we're sitting in a place of dealing with a lot of trauma, it really clouds our vision. It's really almost like wearing glasses, right? If we were raised in a really painful situation growing up, really emotionally challenging, and not receiving some of the things that we really needed with our identity. Here, this is what we're talking about with Chiron and Aries. We might have a question about it, and then it might filter the ways in which we look at the world. So with the sun in this third quarter square situation, it's almost like the eyeglasses come off and we get to see really what the truth is for something. It might be about the job we've been working in for some time. It might be about the ways we've been going about trying to seek our success in life. And we have to maybe make a little bit of adjustment and say, hey, I need to do this a little differently than I have in the past. I need to really be more aware of what it is that's running the show, so to speak. On the 8th of January, we have Neptune and Mercury going into a third quarter square. Lots of third quarter squares again going on this month. So with this, they were originally together on March 19th of 2023, and they will be going into the retro hit was back on the 26th of December. So we got a little bit of a feeling of it just a few days ago, just after Christmas. And with this, with Mercury is going to be seeking, it's going to be asking lots of questions. Why? Sagittarius is a sign of asking questions. It wants to know things. It wants to understand how things work. And with Neptune and Pisces is a greater philosophical understanding about life, and a greater understanding. It's really our spiritual soul and since Neptune rules Pisces and is sitting in there. But with this third quarter square, it might be this understanding that maybe we've been sitting under some sort of an illusion, right? Maybe we've been telling ourselves a story, kind of like what was continuing on what we talked about with the Chiron and the Sun. And we need to finally see what the truth of that story is. The realization of what the truth is behind that story is probably what's going to be coming forward. Then on the 13th of January, we have the Mercury finally gets to go into the sign of Capricorn, leaving Venus all alone in the sign of Sagittarius. We have what we call a stellium in Capricorn now. We have Pluto at the very last degree, Mercury at the very earliest degree, and then we have the Sun and Mars in the sign as well. This is a really strong focus of energy in Capricorn. In fact, there's a very interesting play that happens out throughout this year where there is a strong focus of energy through each of the signs. And so I think when we look at these sorts of stelliums, I like to consider it to be almost like a football team. You can consider that soccer or football, depending on what side of the pond you're on. But it's really like a sports team kind of coming together and having a singular intention to create something. And so when we talk about Mercury, Mars, Sun, and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, we're talking about the ways we communicate, express, and move, the ways in which we go about our desires and our drive in life, the way we shine forth, and the ways we transform and or destroy that which is in our way to our deeper truth. And with Capricorn, which is a Saturn-ruled sign, this is going to be a really strong shift in energy. It's not going to be that playful energy we've been experiencing in Sagittarius. It's really going to be finding out what the truth is underneath things in a way that structures can be built stronger and success can be made. On the 19th of January, we have a third quarter square between Venus and Neptune. They were originally together on the 16th of February, 2023. So you might want to look back and see what was going on there. Might have been a new relationship. If it was, maybe you're finding out some different truths about that relationship. Maybe you have asked enough questions and you're realizing, hey, this relationship isn't really the right one for me, or maybe it is it meets some of my needs on a fantasy level, but in the reality level of life, it isn't really scratching the itch, so to speak. On the 20th of January, we have a conjunction between Pluto and the Sun at the very last degree of Capricorn. It's going to be very powerful. The Sun and Pluto, this is a once a year experience when we consider it. So there's a way in which the Sun and Pluto are aligned energetically. There will be a twinning. This can be a great opportunity for doing something that might be a little more difficult to do, or it might also be something that's going to awaken something in many of us. This is cardinal energy. This is initiatory energy, switching into, as we know, back into the Aquarius energy that is about to follow. And so it's a great time to make sure that the bills are paid and all the duties are taken care of, and see what it is that gets presented. What I like to think about with Pluto is the great and terrible simplification. And while we see it as something that's transformative and almost death-provoking in a sense, it's really the death of that which no longer serves us. So Pluto has this way of kind of exacting a perfect price for things. And when we encounter Pluto, it's kind of almost like encountering a thief on the road. You don't know exactly what they might take from you. But the interesting thing with Pluto is after the trauma of having whatever that precious item taken from you is, there is an awareness that, oh, that really wasn't for my best interest anyway. So it's a very, very nice way of looking at things if you can let go of it. But from our ego standpoint, we really don't like to let go in that way. 22 minutes later, the Sun moves into the sign of Aquarius. Both signs, of course, both Aquarius and Capricorn, they're both Saturn-ruled signs. So we're going to be still feeling a bit of that flare of Saturnian energy going on, but it's moving out of the more practical Capricornian earth-based orientation into the sign of air. These are also right here at this 0 degrees of Aquarius is where Jupiter and Saturn did their great mutation. So these are now kind of a repeat or a sort of an echoing of the energy of what happened back then. And this is really going to be helping set the stage. Of course, the Sun moves into Aquarius around this time each year. So that is really not as much of a fascinating thing. But really what is the most powerful thing is this process of having Pluto involved in it as well. 11 hours and 15 minutes after that, still on the same day, Pluto moves into Aquarius as well for its second time. This continues this conjunction of energy, but this is, I think the 20th of January is going to be a very, very liminal space. I'd recommend people kind of taking it easy if they can, just being a little more circumspect, being a little more patient and seeing what happens. With air, the important sign is it's not as work oriented as the earth sign. So with air, it really is thinking about it. It wants to know, especially with Aquarius, it's that periscopic ability, right? We want to rise up and have a view of the world, a view of the situation that gives one a wider perspective. If we're trying to deal with something, if we're trying to build something on the ground, what's really nice sometimes is to get up on a ladder or get up on top of another building and look down, and you can get that perspective you need and say, okay, I need to make the adjustments here and here and here. And so that's kind of what this energy is going to be like. So with Pluto and the Sun in Aquarius, it's right human relationship. How are we dealing with people? What's going on with the wars? Are we experiencing an uptick in what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and in Israel and Hamas in Gaza? Or are there any other issues that are coming up around the planet? I think this is going to be a very interesting thing. The unfortunate aspect that happens with Pluto moving into Aquarius is going to be creating some challenging aspects to some of our more dictatorial or rulers on the planet, such as Putin, such as the gentleman in Northern Korea, and I'd even say to some extent what's going on with Netanyahu. These are going to be squaring. Anyone who has Pluto in Leo is going to be feeling this because it's an opposition. Anyone with any of the fixed signs, Scorpio and Taurus as well, is going to be feeling this movement of Pluto moving into Aquarius. On the 23rd of January, sorry about that. We have Venus moving out of Sagittarius and joining her brothers in Capricorn. So again, this is a good time. Maybe this is the time for the contract. Maybe you've asked enough questions about your relationship and you're realizing, okay, now it's maybe time to commit. We can actually sign on paper. We can make the commitment that yes, we want to stay together and we want to build something with one another. This can also be a way of maybe not being as idealistic in our views and our values and our relationships with people. I think this year, like so many of us, so many years in the past, is going to be building up to this idea and understanding of what are our right diets, what are the right things that we have going on in our life, who are the people we have in our life, do we have people in our life who are supporting us and who are giving us the right sort of reflection and understanding, or are they gaslighting us? You get the time of year to find out, right? Then on the 25th of January, we have another third quarter square, this time between Mars in Capricorn and Chiron in Aries. This can have a little bit of a kind of a conflictual energy. Again, this whatever was started back around the 15th of June, 2022. Look back and see what that was going on. And you might see similar themes of it working out. Again, this is this positioning or this aspect, which is called a crisis in consciousness. And so we may find that we have not been handling things financially as well as we should have, or maybe we haven't been saving money like we should have, or maybe we haven't been doing the work around our homes or at work that we need to, or maybe we've been, like we said earlier, when it comes to the Chiron image, maybe we've been operating more out of our womb than we should be. And we need to step into letting that go and be able to help others who have been in similar situations and understand that the human condition is fraught. It's not, humans love suffering, unfortunately. It's the way we learn. And when we get into these third quarter squares, there's an aspect, I wouldn't call it of suffering, but maybe becoming aware of how the ways in which we are suffering, the ways in which we're not really quite happy in doing the things we really want to do. On the 26th of January, we are going to have another third quarter square. We're seated on the 26th of March. This is now Mercury in Chiron. So this is replicating the theme. Again, this is almost, when we like to think, like when I was talking about earlier with Saturn and Jupiter at the 0-degree Aquarius point, when large planets hit through certain points, there's almost like a little bit of a groove. And so we find that there's a theme that continues on with this. And so this might be the ability to maybe ask really pointed and structured questions about what it is that's going on, or realizing, hey, we need to maybe make some movement or do some things that adjust the ways in which we have our perception and understanding of our identity in life. And maybe it might be time to adjust that. Maybe we need to let go of our old ways of holding on to things, or maybe we need to let go of the ways in which we were very impulsive and be able to be more thoughtful in the ways in which we go about doing things. Aries, Chiron in Aries is going to be very instinctual. It's going to be very, because the point with Aries is the right to be. And with Chiron there's some sort of an issue with the feeling that it's not okay to simply be who we are. And with these third quarter squares that are happening with the Sun, Mars, and Mercury over this month, we're going to be really having to ask ourselves the questions of who we are. What are we doing here? What is it that I want to be aligned to? I'm very happy. I hate delving into political issues because I find it so fraught with things. But, you know, when these things that are going on around, like what's going on in Israel and Palestine is something that's been going on for a long time. And the old saying is an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. And we have to find a way to not only find a way to keep our eyes open, but we need to find a way in which civilians are no longer paying the price for these military expressions. We need to find a way to make it so that people are safe. I'm very sad and distraught to see that we are still having these sorts of experiences in the 21st century, that we as humans have not evolved to a point where we can stop pulling the sword out and just cutting people out, cutting people and hurting people without trying to find a way to really work it out, to understand that we're all really human and that the pains and the wounds that we have are collective in some ways. And how do we do that, especially when we think of things like what's going on with Palestine and Israel? these are long-standing issues, and I think we need to figure out some way to relate in a way that will be happier and healthier, and it's not going to be easy. Again, on the 26th of January, we have another third quarter square, this time between the Sun in Aquarius and Jupiter in Taurus. So this was seeded back in April of 2023. Taurus, and we can see in here in the sign, it's in its vault. It's got the gold calf in the background. Uranus is in the background. They're laying on the sofa, they're eating grapes and they're drinking wine, and they're thinking, hey, it's kind of safe here in our cozy little place. This is all mine. And then the Sun in Aquarius is saying, yeah, but do you really need all that wealth? Do you really need all that accumulation? How can we share it with others so that everyone can do well? How do we remember that we are all brothers and sisters of humanity? How do we remember that we are all sharing this planet together, and that some way we need to figure out a way, and I don't know whether at some point, whether when we find out that there are aliens out there or what, that we are more kindred than we are not. I think these are the things that really we're speaking to in this energy. And again, this is now where Jupiter is squaring Aquarius at this point, and earlier on is where that early point was, where Saturn and Jupiter were for the great mutation and moving from Earth, moving from this idea of physical things, of structures, of comfort, and maybe even hoarding on a certain level, and then how to break through and find ways that this can be shared. How can we do it in a way where the assets are a little bit more evenly distributed, or that that the people at the highest level of wealth and the people at the lowest poverty level, the wealth kind of comes down a little bit and the poverty level is not as bad. So there's people. And the good news is that overall, there is a lot less poverty on the planet at this point, but we still obviously have a long way to go. And of course, that Uranus is still in a retrograde motion in Aquarius, which then moves into where she moves into her direct motion on the 26th. So Uranus has spent a fair amount of time in the last 6 months going retrograde, asking us to review the ways in which we are being structured, the ways in which we are aligned with our physicality. I like one of Alan's symbols for Taurus. Taurus can sometimes suffer from me, mine, mine-itis. Me, mine, mine-itis, meaning Taurus can be very toddler-like and want to have, it's very strongly security-based. And Uranus in Taurus is saying, hey, we can't really be this structured. We can't really look at things this way. Uranus is coming in there and saying something new has to happen, and Taurus is about form. And so when these two come together, it's about creating new form. So we've been reviewing these ways in which over the last 6 months, maybe the ways in which we go about our personal resources, the way we go about holding on to those physical things that give us comfort that maybe aren't as important on an emotional level or really meaningful life level, need to be looked at and reviewed. On the 27th of January, we're looking at a conjunction between Mercury and Mars. If this had been when this was in Sagittarius, this can be kind of like spinning your wheels. People, when you're in a stick shift and you punch it, you got your wheels spinning at the end. But here in Capricorn, it's going to be a little bit more directed. So this could be a really great time for business meetings, for getting together and discussing what the goals are for the year, and really setting forth plans about what the right way of doing things will be. And that is our forecast for the month. In January and February, I have a few offerings coming on. I will be offering an introductory course on astrology, teaching the who, what, where, and how of life. Please visit my website, coremichael.com/events to sign up. It's going to be on the 4th Thursday of the month, starting on the 25th of January and ending on April 25th. Then in February, I'm going to be offering an introductory course to esoteric astrology, also known as soul-centered astrology. For those of you who have a little more of an old soul perspective, What I like about esoteric astrology is it gives a very different way in which the information is understood and seen. And so we can look at this as being a deeper meaning that doesn't have as much to do with the personality, which is really what the change is between here, between the personality and the soul, and making sure we can see in the chart where there are issues that we can see, identifying the esoteric chart where one is likely to have issues in stepping off from being personality based and into one's soul-centered life. So real exciting course. Got to work on this with Alan over the years and really enjoyed Alan Oken, and really happy to share this with everyone. So please, again, go to poormichael.com/events and click there for more information. I'm available for astrological coaching and readings and here to be of service. So please feel free to contact me at michael@poormichael.com or visit my website at poormichael.com. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit like if you enjoyed what I offered today. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And please share my information with your friends if you find this information valuable. Thank you so much for your time today. I wish you an amazing January. Happy New Year and blessings to you all.